What is up, everyone? Welcome to the channel. As you can see, we are already live and going. This is another draft I'm bringing to you today. This is a 14 teamer. This is one of my leagues. The budget here is $250, 14 teams, and we have 19 roster spots to fill. The top 8 teams in this league make the playoffs, and so there's always competition here to close out the season. Today I'm going to take you through a different league format. Usually I would do a 12 teamer or a super flex league. Today I'm doing a 14 team league, standard league, 14 team. The scoring is a little different relative to the other leagues I've been doing, and that's one thing you need to keep an eye on when you are joining a league. I know most of you already do this when you join your leagues. Make sure you check the settings and make sure that is something that is okay with you. Hopefully you are drafting in your home league and you already know the settings of those leagues, or you can talk to a family member or a friend to explain to you what's going on. But in these custom leagues, what I tend to see is sometimes it's too late when you realize that the formats are not something you want to be playing in. I've done a lot of drafts. I spent a lot of money where I've literally done the draft and then realized, oh my gosh, we don't have a kicker, we don't have a defense. Like, wait, the scoring is this, and so like you get that realization, and you just want to be mindful going into your draft. With that said, let's get into this. Usually, I try to draft a really balanced team in this format specifically because it is a 14 team league, and so there's 2 additional teams to draft players, and so the waiver wire is going to be bare rain. There is going to be no one to pick up, even if you have the budget to do so. So making sure your depth is good, making sure your rosters are filled, and making sure like your bench has quality guys that you can throw into your roster as the season progresses. We have 6 bench spots just to cut down on the amount of players each team is rostering. Three flex spots, 2 wide receivers, and 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and a QB. I'm trying to keep my eye on the draft and talk to you all at the same time. This is not going well, but that is the setup here. Nothing too fancy. Same format you've seen thus far in terms of like the layout. We're in the Yahoo portal. I do most of my leagues on Yahoo because they just offer you the flexibility to build all of these different custom leagues that you want to play in that may not be available in the standard formats. Thus far, I have no one drafted. I literally just jumped into this, and so we're going to see how this one unfolds. Let's look at the draft board thus far. Keep in mind, we have 19 roster spots to fill. That includes kickers and defenses. And the budget is $250. So Bijan is going for, this person spent both on Bijan and Saquon, both 65 apiece. I mean, how much do you have left? 120 left. And so you have to be really mindful of that, of how you're spending, because that can, a few more players of that elk, you have like a solid RB. You built around your RB, but if one of those guys get hurt, then you're left holding the bag. And so you want to be very purposeful in how you build your team. And if that's the way you go about it, so be it. But just know that waiver wires is not going to be as helpful in this league. That is it for now. I want to get involved in this. I want to participate in this draft. So I don't want to sit here and talk while players are going off the board. But I would definitely be back with where we are. Again, these drafts can last up to 3 hours. And so one day we might stream the entire draft for you to see the entire process. But for now, we're just trying to keep it simple and succinct for you. Wow. Jefferson just went for almost 60. So the budget here was 250, and teams are spending with reckless abandon. I mean, the top players are going in that in the 60 range, and then there's some really super aggressive, just bidders, right? They're just, I mean, this team has two running backs already, and he's being super aggressive. And so, yeah, he's done. He's got now 85 left to draft the rest of his team. It's not bad. His running back position is basically covered. But again, you may want players, right? But like, at what point do you decide to walk away and allocate your funds elsewhere? I think that's the biggest question to you as you are in your draft and you are navigating these drafts. I wanted Kamara, but unfortunately, the price tag was just too cost prohibitive for me. In this format, his average price for him is roughly, I say people go usually 25, but it is what it is. So just be mindful. Don't get caught up in like bidding wars on players. If that's a player that you think is going to make all the difference, go ahead and pay. But don't get in a bidding war, because what happens is once other managers realize that you are in on a certain player, they just start to like hit the button, and then you look up and you're paying $20 more than that player is supposed to go for. So be mindful of that as you navigate your drafts. My buddy here, Royal Kings, I know for sure he's a Jet fan, so he's definitely going to go in on Brees Hall because he's really familiar with that team. I'm not. But again, don't nominate the players you want off the bat. Lesson number 2 of this soliloquy: if that's a player you want, try and keep that player on wraps for as long as possible without nominating that player, because right now at this point of the draft, everyone has money, so everyone's willing to go that extra $3, $4, $5 on a player, and that might cost you, right? You could have had that player potentially for around the market value, but you didn't end up paying more just because everyone has money at this point. So be mindful of that. Let's take a look at the draft results here. Let's see what has happened. We have this team. He spent all his money on running back thus far. And then we have Darren Waller going for 1, and then CeeDee Lamb. So the top wide receivers did actually go for a lot more. And then we just have the top running backs off the board. All of the top running backs have come off the board, including Justin Jefferson, Nico Collins, Gibbs. And so I think what I'm seeing is most teams are probably going to just get 2 solid top 10, top 15 guys, and then just sit back and wait for opportunities to get players cheaper. And as you can tell, everyone has money right now, so it's always a competition for for every player. And so that's why usually I like to just sit back and let the draft unfold, let some of these teams spend money, and then I can come in later and hopefully shave off the prices of players that are available, right? I mean, some teams are being super aggressive, whereas other teams are sitting. There are teams like Many Men here. He's not spent $1 of his money, and then you have this team that's not spent any money as well. So, and I've not spent anything. And so you observe the draft. Once those budgets start to get in like the 150 range per, I think that's when I'm going to start being a little bit more assertive, because at that point, people are willing to let go and just think about, okay, do I really want to keep going up here, or do I want to reserve that money to fill roster A, roster B, roster C? Similar to what I was saying earlier, Corey here has Jamar Chase, and he wants to pair Jamar Chase with Joe Burrow. He could have waited and got some value off the board first and let some teams spend their money before he nominated Chase. But he went ahead and nominated Chase, and he faced stiff competition, right? So Chase now went for $21. If he had just waited, I think he could have had Chase for cheaper than that. And I think that's one of the things you want to stay away from right now. Everyone has money. So if that's a player you really want, don't nominate them this early in the draft. Wait till like the midpoint of the draft, towards the back end of the draft. Just save some money and be patient. But I think in most times, managers come into the draft with, I have to leave with this player. I want to get this stack. I want to do X, Y, and Z. And that can cost you because everyone now knows everything about every player, right? And you're not gone are the days where the people who did deep research had like the most information about players, right? We can go on any podcast now and find information available about this player and projections and all of these things. So you just have to be mindful about nominating the players you want. Right now, my strategy is that I know I'm not going to pay for Drake London. I'm not going to pay for any of the top players on the board here, right? I'm not getting Bowers. And so the next round, I'm definitely nominating Bowers. He's definitely going to go for close to 40 in this market. And so that's $40 someone's spending on Bowers when I can get maybe Evan Ingram for $10, $5. Mark Andrews for $5, $10. So it just depends on what you want to do, how you want to allocate your resources. We are close to 40 minutes in this draft. And one of the things I'm noticing is that the running backs are expensive. Soul Survivor here is basically just, he's price enforcing. So whenever a running back comes up or a player comes up, he sets that price for that player, right? That's what he's willing to pay. So you see that in the draft as well, where you have price enforcers. They just set that price per player. It doesn't matter. Like I'm gonna pay this for that player, and then like the bidding starts from there. One of the values of that is that it expedites the process of like the $1 bids here and there. And so it's a good thing to do, but also like sometimes you overpay for that player, right? Because you're price enforcing, right? Maybe the market's not as high on that player and would have gone elsewhere. Now you are paying premium. And this is what I'm saying. George has selected Ingram with the hope that he would get Ingram for $1. With everyone has money, you don't select the players you want, right? It's $1, and so everyone's going to automatically go over that. And so for Soul Survivor, who's been basically price enforcing here, you want to be careful because he may just drop a price out there that you are not willing to pay, and you are stuck with that player, right? So be careful in how you approach that, right? There's so much need for running backs here. The running backs are at a premium here. I mean, everyone's going between 35 and so on. So perhaps I should get some running backs here because there's not a lot of running backs left on the board, so to speak. So I'm going to have to pay up for running backs. Everyone is price enforcing, and for $2, $3 for Rashid Rice, I'll pay. If it gets too much, I will step out. Yeah, I'm not sure how long he's going to be suspended. That's someone's value, and someone can pay that, and that's okay. But I'm not willing to take that. I've already gambled on a bunch of no names, so to speak, or players that are questionable. I got Judkins for $6. there is no indication that he's going to play at all this year, right? If he plays, that's a bonus. That's a win, right? For $6 in a deep league, you're not going to find him on the waiver wires like if he comes back week 8. But yeah, I'm not willing to invest in Rashid this year just because. And T. Higgins is up. But yeah, what's happening is that running back is really getting shallow really fast. If you look at the draft results thus far, what we see here is that running back has been the hottest position. All of the running backs have come off the board in some order. And yeah, so I really need to step up and get some running backs. At least, right? I may have to overpay, but that's the price of doing business right now. So we are 1 hour into this draft, and we still got a ways to go. RB's been flying off the board like no one's business, and the price point here is just remarkable. I mean, Jaden Blue's still going for over $10 at this point in the draft. Everyone still has money, but the RB options are dwindling as we speak. I could barely get Tony Pollard, right? And I had to pay close to $30. Usually Tony Pollard would go around 20, but I had to pay $30. 26, close to. And I'm sure Kenneth Walker is going to go for a hefty price tag. And so I just need to be present here and try to get some running backs because it is getting more and more expensive. It's insane just how much the running backs are going for in this format. I mean, that's 15 more than Ken Walker should go for, right? But it's supply and demand. I mean, outside of Ken Walker, there's really, I mean, we have Pacheco and Swift and those guys. But what I can do is wait, and if he's going to outbid me, fine. But that's, Ken Walker would normally go for maybe 29. That's like almost 20 more than he should be going for, right? But that's what happens in formats like these where it's really larger formats where everyone wants a running back. Wide receiver is good. It can be, you can make your way through. There's 3 wide receiver spots in this league, but I don't even have 2 solid running backs, right? That's the challenge here. So I'm just trying to navigate this one and come out with some value. But running back is flying off the board, and I can barely get some. I was trying to sit and be patient, but I feel like every running back that comes on the board, there's a hefty price tag associated. So, for example, Tracy is probably going to go for 20, 25, right? Is that where you want to spend? Oh, good for me, right? Maybe if I can pick up Scatterboo and just kind of pair them together, I'll be good. But yeah, it's scary. There's still some value on the board, but there's still a lot of teams with money left. So it is going to be a fight for all of these, the running backs that are left. I don't want to be participating when that happens. And so trying to get ahead of this by getting some wide receivers here and there and then just seeing what unfolds. I might be able to capture value, might not, but I'll just try that and see what happens. All right, folks, we are an hour, 15 minutes roughly into this draft. There's still a ton going on. Players are still going for such a high price, right? It's one of those drafts where you have to overpay, and that's basically what's happening here. There's just so much overpaying going on because you have the teams with money left over and the teams without money, right? But like those teams are few and far in between, and so like there is just inflation, like a tremendous amount of inflation going on here, and every player that comes on the board is a must have, and the wide receivers in particular are just like flying off the board. I still need wide receivers. I've made some strides at running back, so I have to start overpaying as well, right? Unfortunately, I don't like to draft like that, but it's what the market calls for. So I mean, teams have money. You're gonna have to pay at $25, $26 apparently to get a wide receiver at this point of the draft. That is what I wanted to avoid, right? I wanted to avoid overpaying. But now it seems like I have to do that just to get players on my team, and that's what's happening here. So I'm overpaying by a ton, which is it makes the draft not fun. But again, that's the market that's created here. I could have gone Cortland Sutton maybe. Could pay 24. At this point, I'm just trying to shave off every single dollar I can. Williams is going now. He's going to go for the same price tag. It's supply and demand, right? We have 19 spots to fill, and most teams are sitting at 6, 7 ish, right? I'm at A here. So you're just going to have to overpay. And this is what I have. I have Smith, I have Wardy, I have Diggs, and wide receiver I have ETN for 11, Quinshawn Judkins for $6. I can drop those guys if nothing materializes over the course of the season. Pollard, Kenneth Walker, Tyron Tracy are my running backs. I still want to get one more running back in there. I just wanted to get one more wide receiver before I went all out guns ablaze on my wide running back position. I mean, this is what I mean, right? It's like you have teams here with like 5 roster spots filled, and at this point they need to start spending money. We all need to start spending money, and so like you can take it home, right? So start spending some of those. These are the players that are available on the board, so I'm just gonna have to overpay at this point. So you either overpay up front or you overpay now, and I feel like now is the best time to overpay. So I'll throw Myers out there. Let someone else bid on Myers. I think I have some good depth at wide receiver now ish. I mean, I'm paying this much for Tracy, right? I mean, for Pearsall. I think with the budget I have left, which is 76 roughly, I'm trying to get one more good solid running back, and then maybe just my backups, and call it a day, because this is just it's to the point where it's not fun anymore to. But again, if you are patient enough and you sit and you wait, you might be able to get some really good value later for cheap. But I feel like because the league is so deep, everyone will have like picked, the carcasses, for lack of a better phrase, of clean, right? And so is that way you want to be playing? Probably not. So try to get your roster as full as possible. I'm be 10 players away. So within that 76, if I can get 3 more solid players, we can all just dance the dance, right? And just pick up players. I mean, people are being strategic now in terms of the players they're drafting. If you can get $1 off here, especially those teams with less money, makes sense. I mean, look at this. Right? This is completely different from anything else you've seen me do. You've seen values in your draft, and so that's why these custom leagues sometimes can be fun, and sometimes they can be like really stressful, right? I just want to get this player, but like I have to pay, and if you are frugal, like me, you don't want to pay a penny more than you have to pay for player X, because that it's just an inflationary environment. So you just have to adapt. I mean, case in point, look at this. I mean, look at the value on the board here. I mean, I'll take Debo for half of that, right? Golden, mean, do people feel like this is the last true wide receiver on the board? And so you're just seeing like just this insane money doesn't mean anything here. Let's just get some players, right? So this is where we are. In a few, I'm going to like switch over. I have another draft going on at the half-hour mark, and so I'm going to do two drafts simultaneously because one leads into the other. And so yeah, you get to see different approaches, right? We still have some money on the table here. People still have hundreds of dollars left. It is going to take a long time for this one to be completed, and so I need to get over and start doing that draft. So as wide receiver dwindles, we switch back over to the running back. There's still some depth here, and so I'm just going to pick off whatever I can get my hands on here at this point. It's not pretty, but just get anyone you can, because at this point you can trade them for a wide receiver or something down the line. This guy's dropping 20, like we don't have 20s to spend. It don't matter how much you bid, we all still have money to spend. That's what makes it fun, right? At this point of the draft, let me see what's happening here. I'd rather spend that on Pacheco, for example, right? So that's opportunity cost here. He's got Chuba, he's got Genty, he's got Swift, right? So I'd rather spend that extra money on someone I feel like has the backfield to themselves, and that's like Pacheco. I think has a better upside than Swift, but at this point, I guess you can't be too picky. Can I get away with the old man? Oh, that's a no. For under 20, that was a no. But this is what I'm talking about. Do you rather get Aaron Jones at that price point, or do you rather get Pacheco? Okay, folks, we are an hour 30 minutes into this draft. As you can see, there are still teams with money here. This team still has over $100. I don't know how, but that is still what's happening. And this is what we have on the board in terms of running back. And then in terms of wide receivers, this is what the board looks like. So wide receivers has been picked clean. But, you know, if you have your rankings, so to speak, you can kind of find players here, right? These players are not, based on my ranking, they are not ranked as I would have them. And so you can still find players here. But I've been active. I've been able to get some. I'm not going to fight for Patrick Mahomes. It's just not, yeah. If you're a team with over $100 here, it's scary right now. And what happens is these teams, we've been all overpaying all draft long, and these teams is just like, the money it's not a concept for them right now. This is what I've been able to get. Let me actually focus in on that. Diggs, Devontae Smith. Diggs, Devontae Smith, Xavier Worthy, Travis Etienne, again, depth pieces, Judkins, Tony Pollard, Kenan Williams, Tyron Tracy, Ricky Pearsall, Addison, and Debo. So I feel like I really got some value in that second tier wide receiver bucket. And I think what I'm going to do next is just try to solidify these running back spots, but it's not going to be easy. I have Charbonnet, and I would love to have Charbonnet and maybe Scatterbull just to back up Tracy, and so I have those backfields locked up. But if I have to allocate funds in one direction, I'll probably just get Charbonnet, and I have that entire backfield. I'm not worried about QB at this point because I will find a QB somewhere. Worst case, I just pick up the guys I left on waiver wires. but I'm not going to spend most of my money there. As you can see, Patrick Mahomes just went for $10, so I think that's attainable. You never know. You never know. And when you get this late in the draft with folks with that much money, sometimes people get mad and they just kind of throw all caution to the wind and just whatever player comes up, I will bid and I'll make sense of my team later. So you still want to be mindful of that. But I think I played it smart where I was able to get some mid-tier values. Just make sure there's a key player at every single position, and they might not be the top players in the world, but it gives me depth when you have to turn to the waiver wire and there's no one on the waiver wire. Okay, so this is where we are. The rest of the draft results looks something like this. There are teams who like Royal Kings has basically spent everything. He's down to 13, but he has like 4 spots to fill. Kelsey and Tucker Craft. Jared Judy for 14. I'm sure Dobbins is going to go for over 20 because, like I said, supply and demand. And when we look at the positional grid, what we see here is that most teams have 2 running backs, and so there is still a need to bolster the running back position for most of these teams here. For me, I have a little bit more. Where's my team? Yes, I have. Well, we're just looking at flexes here in the wide receiver position, but I have enough wide receivers to be able to. Well, okay, I guess prices are coming down for Dobbins. That is not anyone else, right? I'm sure if I just look Charbonnet's way, it's gonna be $50 right now. As I say that, here we go. I'm sure he's gonna go for like around 30. Because again, money means nothing at this point, right? And I'm just being, you know, it's not worth the investment at this point, but there we go. All right, I've got enough wide receivers that you can try to, push the bidding up. It's not going to matter as much. So this is where you want to be. Just sit back and with this team right here, go back to my team. This is my team right here. I've got Ken Walker and Charbonnet locked down. I've got. He just wanted to make me spend all my money at that point, right? But I don't care because I've gotten enough depth at wide receiver to make it worth my while, right? But I have enough just these type of running backs, right? That helps me just stay balanced throughout the year. These wide receivers that help me stay balanced throughout the year. I don't need to be sucking wind on the waiver wire. I think I'll be fine given everything here. At the end of the day, the goal here is to have fun. So don't forget that ever in your drafts. This one was a little stressful, but the goal is to have fun, right? The probability of you winning your league every year is not as slim. I won this league before, and every year is a little different. You have different players, you have different ranking systems, you have an influx of new managers into the league. Everyone has a different approach, and so it's always out of whack. Usually I will wait and just pick up value. That was not the case today. All the running backs were going more than they should be going, and that's a problem. And in case in point, we just saw Nick Chubb go for $12. I'm going to just nominate Allen here. He might fetch 10 to 15, right? Because, look at Many Man here. Still has a ton of spots to fill on a running back position. It basically doesn't have a running back, but waited all draft long. For what? I don't know. Drafted a ton of wide receivers, which is good, and got all the rookie tight ends. Yeah, so this is where the draft is. Like I said, Allen now goes for close to 15, and that's just a market that like I don't want to be in. That's why I went so heavy on Charbonnet, just in case he's Ken Walker is not the guy in Seattle, because that's what I've been hearing. Say, oh, Charbonnet's backfield now. So I don't know. I've been drafting a ton of Ken Walker, and you never know what happens. And so I just wanted to be just make sure I was good from that vantage point. But yeah, this draft has been different to say the least. And so when you are in these type of drafts, make sure you are mindful. Don't get caught up in like just everything. If you see that running back is starting to become a premium, meaning people are paying a hefty price for running backs, and you start to see like the value on the board dwindle, jump in, get some running backs early, and then save the rest of your budget for later where you can get maybe cheaper wide receivers, right? That's just how to navigate it. But if you just tit for tat trying to compete with everyone, you might look up and you have 4 players and no money to spend elsewhere. Those 4 players might be remarkable, but when an injury happens, you have no depth in a league like this where 14 teams, almost 20 players, it's not going to be a lot of players available on the waiver wire. Be mindful of that. Javonte Williams is going for $21. Makes no sense, but that's happening. $21 for Javonte. $21. Let me say that again for Javonte. In a league with a budget of $250, right? And I think that's what happens with that whole thing where, I got Tootin for 11 and I got ETN for 11. So together, that's $20. I'm hoping that one of those guys emerge as the leader in that backfield. So let's look at my team here. We have Tootin for 11 and we have ETN for 11, right? I've basically cornered the market on all of these mid-tier running backs, and if one of these guys shines, that's $20 per backfield right there, right? I'm good. And then I got Ken Walker and Charbonnet, so that backfield is already locked down. Then I've got some good wide receiver depth. I am not getting Scatterbull. Let's not even go there. I am not getting Jerome Ford to pair with Quinshawn Judkins. But again, this is just my depth, right? I can get a quarterback. I can get a tight end at some point. If that might not even be possible, right? So this is where we are. It's insane. And so you might find yourself in this type of salary cap leagues and these types of environments where you just got to navigate it as best as possible. As soon as I realized that running back is going to be a problem later, or that people are going to have a ton of money to spend later, I just started like being super aggressive with running back, right? And I didn't go for the top running backs. I just got these mid-tier players who can help me basically navigate injuries and ups and downs throughout the season. Like I feel like all of these guys are leaders in their backfields, right? With the exception of, let me get a player out here and see what happens. Shakir. Like I was saying, all of these players are leaders in their backfields. And so I'm happy with my running back depth. I'm not going to get any other player with $9 left, right? I'm going to be in the dollar bargain bin for a long time until all of these teams are full. But at this point, I don't need to do too much. I need to get a QB. I need to get a tight end, and I think that would be good. And I'm good here, right? And I don't have to rely so much on the waiver wire. I got good depth all around. But like I'm saying, case in point, usually Shakir will be going for maybe $8, $9 in other leagues. Now he's going for 14, right? And that's that SS budget. And the fear of being left behind basically by the rest of the leagues teams in the league, and that's why they were spending like crazy earlier and not accounting for the back half of the draft. I feel like people are getting mad at other people for bidding at the last second. This is what happens, right? I feel like I played it a little better than most, where I was like, okay, I got money, I've got some good players, let me just try to get players on my roster and see what happens. And I just focused on running back because I know, 14-teamer, running back is one of the places where we are all going to be struggling. And it paid off. And you see now that Mims is, usually I have leagues where Mims is not drafted. Now he's being drafted for 10 plus, right? And if you look on the board, Pittman's still here, Mooney's still here, Downs, Wendell Robinson, we have Christian Kirk here. So these guys are on the board, so you can't even hope of getting one of these guys at this point. It's going to be, look at this person has almost $100 left, $60 left. It is not going to be cheap. And so don't hope. These guys were in my queue, but this is over. Check this out on the right-hand side. Ramondre is going for close to $20. These are the running backs that are left on the board, and that's what happens when so much money is left over. And that's why I saw this early, and I wanted to get ahead of it, because this budget was not disappearing anytime soon, and these guys were sitting and waiting, and I knew there would be a crunch, because like if you're not bidding on running backs or wide receivers, what are you waiting for at that point? So I just decided, okay, it was time to go and just pick up some players. And so when I compare how much the backups are going for relative to the starters, right, it was just best to invest in the starters at that point, right? Because at that point, people were like, okay, I still have money. 30, 40 range for players was good. Now it is completely like upside down, and it's completely chaotic, and I love it because I'm almost done. A kicker and a defense puts me at 15. I still have 4 spots to fill. I need a QB and a tight end. That puts me at 17. 3 more spots. Flyers. On the right-hand side here, I have a 12-team league that is ready to go. This league has 8 benches, 3 flexes. On the right-hand side, this is my 12-team league. The buy-in here is $100. The budget is $200. Less players. Well, same amount of roster spots, but less teams, right? 12 team. And we have 8 benches in total, and I believe 2 or 3 IR spots. 2 flexes, 2 running backs, 3 wide receiver, QB. So your traditional type leagues, right? I'm looking forward to a much better experience in this format than this format. What I tend to do in this league year in and year out is I sometimes will wait a little bit, or I will be aggressive depending on how the draft is going. And so what I will do here is try to get ahead of things and just get some cheap players if I can, and then just go from there. And if I need to be aggressive, I'll be aggressive. If I need to scale back, I will scale back. But I'm doing 2 drafts at the same time, which is awesome, right? I don't know if you guys ever do this, but most of my drafts tend to run into each other based on the day. And so I was usually, one is ending, one is starting. Sometimes they're both at the same time. And so I would try to draft both of these teams simultaneously. my attention will be more focused on this draft because I have more at stake here than this draft. I don't have a lot of budget here. I would just kind of wait around and see if I can get some players here and there for cheap. Otherwise, I think we are good. I mean, look, there's so much more money on the board that Ollie Gordon is going for 14, right? And yeah, in this format, definitely pays to be early. So I will get Rashad White up there. Rashad White's probably going to go for 14 or 15 at this point. Over on the right hand side, we are seeing normal-ish behavior in terms of, I mean, this person is just, I mean, they've got Jamar Chase and Bijan Robinson. That's aggressive. And that's the beauty of salary cap, right? You can bid whatever you want within your budget for a player, right? And if you want to get those two players in a traditional snake draft, you will not be able to get those two players. You're either getting Chase or you're getting Bijan, but you can get both of them. In the salary cap format, you can get both of them. It's going to cost you. I mean, he's at 80 now with two players on his roster. It's going to cost you, but you can do it. And that's the beauty of salary cap. And I think more people should switch over and start doing these. I think the traditional snake draft is so archaic at this point, right? There's no imagination, really. It's like 12 team, or it's like there's just no imagination. I think with salary cap, you can do a lot of things with the budget, right? When the settings, you can make it so custom that it gives you like that ability to really customize the league around you and your the other participating teams. And people like to play different formats. People like to play interesting rules, interesting settings, and all of these things. Play around with different budget amounts, right? I do 450, I do 250, I do 200. Different, just kind of spread around, just kind of learn and see how different leagues are bidding. This one was definitely a lot of learnings for me. Next year when I do this league, I'm going to keep it at that price point, but I know that it's going to be inflationary, and so I need to go up. I need to go faster and get the players I want. On the right hand side, we have normal behavior where people are just trying to get the top players they can, stack their roster, and go. But I love it. And that's why I do so many of these. And so you can see the different environments and how different managers and people react within these ecosystems and how they enter and participate within the auction. It's quite interesting to see what's happening. We have this 14 teamer where people still have a ton of money, and players are usually go for $1 are going for 12, 15, 20. And over here, players are going at their almost the right price for each player, right? It's just so interesting to have both dynamics going on. Here on the right hand side, I don't feel like I need to rush right now. I feel like the teams are spending appropriately on the players they want, and that creates opportunity later, and that creates opportunity within the midpoint of the draft. Over here on the left hand side, we are all at the mercy of those with money, and so we are just all sitting here. I mean, look at Peekaboo here. Look at this. This team has Joe Burrow, who they spent a hefty penny on, and Bijan, Saquon, Kamara, and Chase. So they got all of the top, I mean, 4 of the top running backs. So they are loaded at running back. And so that creates like that entire dynamics we saw. So instead of another team getting these 2 players, he got all 4 players. And it creates a crunch in the market on that position. And that's leading to some of like the inflation we see here. But he has to fill his wide receiver position. And so wide receiver is going to be very poor for him at this rate because everyone still has money, and every player he nominates, we can all go after those players equally, right? And he's at 2021, so it's going to be interesting to see how he fills these spots. But he's good from a running back standpoint. He doesn't need any pick your backups. I mean, Keenan Allen at this point is just if you have the money, spend it, right? What are you waiting for at this point? So it is remarkable. This was like interesting to say the least. Right? I still need to pick up a QB, so I'm waiting for most teams to draft a QB. Everyone has a QB for the most part, with the exception of this team and this team. Let's see here. Yeah, and they both have money, so they can outbid me for the QBs they want. And so I'm just going to sit back here, pick up scraps, and go from there. And I will just let the budget dwindle here. On the left hand side, budget's going to dwindle. I'm going to get a few players here and there. And on the right hand side, my focus is just let the draft unfold. Let's see what happens, and then I will get into the fray. It's $200. So my goal here is to spend between 20 and 30 per player, and kind of stay within that range as much as possible. I mean, we just got Devon A-Chain go for what? Derrick Henry and A-Chain for 35 and 43. Right? That's good. I mean, that's normalcy, relatively speaking. I mean, on the right hand side of this window, we have someone who did not show up. So we have two teams who did not show up. So we call these bots. If you are not familiar with the term, it just means that the system is going to bid on players for you, so you can set your rankings for those players before the draft, and a little bit based on how you set those values, right? Sometimes it goes above, but it tends to adhere to the value system within each draft, right? So if Collins is 58, the bot is going to bid up as much as it can to get close to that 58. It may go a dollar over, but for the most part, it's going to be in our range, right? And if no one selects those players, it'll just pick that player for what. So if you don't show up, you can still end up with a really good team. Like Ree's team here has both Amara and Nico Collins. That's a good wide receiver set to start out. But what happens is that people nominate players, and players you may not want to spend on, and then you end up with weird positions because you are over. The bot is just bidding because that's a player, right? And you may not necessarily want that player. So it always pays to show up. Don't let the bot draft your teams. In most cases, you are not going to be happy. And where I tend to see this the most is in super flex leagues. If you are late or you are not available, this is a 2 QB league, right? For all intents and purposes. And so if you don't show up, the bot is basically drafting all the top players at their price point and not really considering QB as much as possible. So you get towards the end of the draft and you realize, oh, I need a QB, but like that QB is like nowhere to be, you don't have a QB. And so that team might be serviceable, but you then cannot compete with the rest of the teams that have multiple QBs, right? There's just point differential that comes into play. I mean, look here, Josh Downs usually goes towards end of drafts for maybe $3 or $4. He's going for 21. How teams still have that much money to spend is beyond me. And I thought like the 250 will manifest itself differently, but it's not. Okay, so he just is trying to. He's got Justin Fields. He's got Trevor Lawrence, but he has to get, That's what happens when you don't plan and execute your drafts properly, right? You are now stuck with three QBs. That's okay. You can hold on to all the QBs in the market. You can't play them all, right? So I don't need all of that, right? I mean, I can find a serviceable QB. If we look here, we have actually we have Drake May is still here. McCarthy is still here. Gino, I can pick up some of these guys and I'll be fine. But yeah, so I think sometimes teams come into the draft without a clear plan on what they're looking to accomplish. And so that leads to just, oh, I got completely lost in this draft. And so I'm going to just, at this point, I have all the money, just throw it at players. All right, I am still doing these two drafts. We still have the bot here hampering our chances of getting players. But good, I've gotten two wide receivers thus far. I think I'm doing good. Here, I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting in this league to be able to get some value. That is just because it's insane. I mean, people still have money, and I'm like, how do you still have money? And I'm just trying to get a tight end at this point, and I can barely get a tight end at this point. All right. And so that's where I'm at. I'm just waiting. So when you get to these points where you don't necessarily have money left, you want to like take a step back and let everyone else get some of the players they want, and then you can focus more on getting the value you want. I know, like, for example, Zach Ertz is still on the board. Zach Ertz is still on the board, and that's good. And I also have Jonnu Smith on the board. So one of those guys will suffice as far as my tight ends go. So let me see here. I'm just gonna go Quentin Johnston. Any player where I don't have to spend any of my money anymore, I'm good. But obviously, Mr. Peekaboo, the man with like very little funds left, still has $2 to sprinkle here and there. And so in this draft, I've got T Higgins, JSN, and Chris Olave at a bargain. And so I'm trying to manage as much as I can my funds. Now that I've got depth at wide receiver, my focus shifts to running back. And I'm just gonna chip away from there. It's a little bit of overpaying, but that's okay. All right. But at some point, you have to be able to let go. You don't want to set a precedence. I just have a draft over here where everyone started to set the prices really high to begin with, and that cost us dearly in the end. So I'm a little bit reserved here. I'm trying to take a back seat and just be pragmatic about how I allocate funds. Hey, I've got Zach Ertz. He was serviceable last year, so I think I'm good there. We are slowly getting there. From a roster standpoint, this is what I've done. I mean, it's not the prettiest, but I've got Geno Smith at QB. I've got um, I've got Geno Smith at QB. I've got Zach Ertz at tight end. And in terms of bench, I've got Aaron Rodgers on my bench. Can't hurt. Now I need to nominate a player. I'm just going to go Damian Pierce here. I'm sure someone's going to outbid me, but at this point, I don't care. I mean, I have 3 spots to fill. I want to make sure I am just picking players I want to keep, right? So now we have 2 spots to fill. I can get a kicker in a defense or something of that nature, and I'm good. On this side, I've gone super aggressive. I've got Mike Evans, I've got DeAndre Swift, I've got James Cook as my running back, JSN T. Higgins. So far, so good. I've got 73 left. I feel like in that 73, if I just start to poach off players at this rate, I'm good. I still need a couple more running backs, but I think I'm good overall. But teams have to pay, and so you have to basically force them to pay something, or else this team is also doing good. Wow, he's got 4 top running backs, and now he's trying to participate in like the wide receiver bucket here. So for him, that's two wide receivers, and that's it. He's got Joe Burrow. He's got his QB, so it doesn't need to do much else. I'm going to do Keaton Mitchell. And I can always drop Mitchell. Oh, okay. And Watson. Let's get Christian Watson up there. Throw him in my IR and call it a day. And then I can pick up kickers and defenses off the waiver wire. Okay, so it's got Adams. That's a good looking team. That's scary. A-Chain, Brees Hall, Chase. But he's done for all intents and purposes. So I'm going to try and get Ken Walker here. Let me look at where we are in terms of running back. Yeah, this is dwindle fast. So get your Ken Walker. I have a player in my queue here, so I think we are good. Okay, I have to let go of Ken Walker at that price point, and I'll spend somewhere else. Got it. So I was able to get the players I wanted. I can throw him in my queue, pick up a kicker in the defense, and then before the season starts, I can pick up someone here. I'm sure that will be an injury or two that you can always throw players in your IR spot. Into your IR spots and see what happened. On the right hand side, I have enough money and enough positional versatility that I can still play in this range. Wide receiver, Metcalf, and okay. I mean, at some point, there's still a ton of wide receivers on the board, so I'm going to try and focus on running back. I still need more running backs. I have a ton of wide receiver, but by doing this, you force the other teams to pay up, right? They can't get players for cheap. You have to compel them to pay up at the position, or else it'll be a free for all. And You don't want that. And then you have players go off the board cheap, and you are paying up later on for those players. Gosh, this is what happens when you have a few teams that basically just hugged the running backs. I don't want to be in an environment where the running backs are all gone and I'm left with bones basically. Now I'm gonna chill. I'm gonna chill. But guys, while this is going on, I hope you had a great time learning from me here. I had to change a lot of things on the fly, especially as it relates to how I had to navigate the different budget ranges, the type of players I was able to get as part of my strategy. I saw early that bidding was inflationary. I think that's one of the things I wrote down in my notes in terms of what I learned. I saw that bidding was, as part of my notes, one of the things I wrote down was bidding is inflationary, and that forced me to spend early on to get depth at the various positions, and so I wasn't caught in the fray later. I mean, if you look at how much backups were going for, it's just astonishing. And when you find yourself in those type of environments, you want to be very judicious in how you approach the draft. You can either wait and overspend, or you can just overspend there and get quality players, right? Because if you're spending 20 for Trey Benson, you could have just spent that 20 on someone else who actually play for your team, right? And that's where I started to make the necessary adjustments, and that really did help me out, right? I got some wide receiver depth, and then I just threw all my money into the like the running back position. And I'm doing something similar here. I'm basically done. I went a speed round where I just went heavy on everyone. I've got Kamara, I've got Montgomery, I've got DeAndre Swift, I've got James Cook. And I think people are a little hesitant. They're still feeling out the draft. I don't have the time to. This league is not as deep, and so I can pick up players off the waiver wire. Right? I can be aggressive on the waiver wire. And last year I got Jordan Mason off the waiver wire, for example. So there's an option there. And so I've gone really aggressive up front. I can still spend up and get a player at 10. Let me see what my max bid is. My max bid right now is 16. So I can already go up to 16 for a player. So that's still competitive. I mean, I'm competing with the bots here. But this is what it becomes if you spend your money early. But what I did not do was spend that money on a few players. My team is basically full. I've got T. Higgins, JSN, Mike Evans at wide receiver, and then Kamara, Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, and James Cook at running back. I think that's good enough to start. I can sit back and let the rest of the draft go, let the rest of players go, and then maybe in the back half of the draft, I can start to take advantage of what's available. We still have this team with their full budget available. There's still a ton of players on the board, don't get me wrong, but I like where I'm at. Back to our original draft here, focusing on our key takeaways here. Give me a second. Back to my original draft here and focusing on our key takeaways. RB was a premium. I realized that early. There was one team that was price enforcing. What price enforcing means is that you select a player and or someone selects a player and you just set the price of what the floor is for that player. So if someone selects Trivia Henderson and you say, I want to pay 30 for Trivia Henderson, you drop your 30 in there, and it forces anyone else who wants that player to bid up higher, or that player goes to you. One of the advantages of that is that it really shrinks the draft. It shrinks the amount of time it takes to draft your teams if everyone's doing it repeatedly. The downside is that be careful when you do that, because you might end up overpaying for a player, right? So those are like the things you have to navigate with price enforcement. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a fair practice. If you want that player, you had the same budget as everyone else, bid higher than your competitors. It's simple as that. But be careful who you are pricing forcing on, right? If you start pricing forcing on players that who may not necessarily end up on your roster, who may not play for you, and you're stuck with that player at a higher price, then it's a waste of resources. RB was a premium. The way I navigated that was by just starting to acquire RB value and then just waiting to see what happened, right? I got some wide receivers, and then I just threw all my money in running back. I was sort out what's next. I can also trade players for running backs for the players I want. I have that flexibility that teams will come to me because I have a lot of depth. Trust me, in the middle of the season, when everyone's RBs are in R and I have so many running backs, teams will offer me almost anything to get their hands on one of the running backs I have. And so that was not my goal initially, but those are some of like the benefits of taking that approach. And one of the things I saw is that teams are still drafting Chris Godwin for ungodly amounts of money. Chris Godwin is not going to provide any value for you this year. Stop drafting Chris Godwin. Like, he's coming off a devastating injury. Even if he gets on the field this year, he is not going to be himself, right? It will take him a year maybe to get back to Godwin as we know, right? So stop spending your money there. I don't know what you are hearing that I'm not hearing, but I mean, if you were ever in doubt about injuries and how they affect players, I will recommend you read up on Stefania Bell. She does a great job of working with players who've been injured before and how they are coming back and what that means for them. And if you've been paying attention over the past few years or so, when players come back from those type of injuries, it really does take them a long time to get their footing, right? You never see that first year is never the year where they shine the most. It's the second year when they feel like, okay, I feel like myself again, right? I've got all my strength back and all of those things. So that would be my one advice for you. I've been drafting Joe Mixon as well. At this point, I might back off drafting of Joe Mixon based on some of the things I'm hearing. I'm not an expert. I'm not like a reporter. I don't work in media. I've just listened to so many analysts talk about what they are hearing, and it's making me a little skittish in terms of Joe Mixon. And so what I'm trying to do is every draft, I try to leave that draft with, say, Dameon Pierce, for example. Try to leave that draft with Dameon Pierce, and it really does create, it gives me options. So if they decide to go with Dameon Pierce, I've got depth there. If not, I can always drop Dameon Pierce and move on to the next player in that backfield. This is what the overall picture looked like from the draft. And yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. I would try to take a screenshot of this and keep it for my records, because this was like insane in terms of like the approach and just how the draft unfolded. I hope you learn a thing or two from this one. Make sure you are always as being present in the draft, looking at what's happening and trying to navigate it as much as possible. Don't just sit back and observe, because you might end up being the teams on the back end are spending way more for these players than you want to be spending. All right? Hopefully this one was helpful for you. And if you found value in it, I'm only getting better at this stuff, guys. I'm going to be bringing you more of this content. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Tell me what I did right, what I did wrong, how I can improve this stuff for you all. I mean, looking at the draft value here, you know, this is amazing. But what is your opinion overall on this type of format, the budget, and how it created that environment? Is this something I should be adjusting since I'm the manager of this league and the creator of this league? Should I adjust the budget? Do you think it'll create that environment we're looking for? I don't know, but this one was definitely interesting, and I'll keep those for my notes. This draft is still going. We're at the point where, because of $200 budget, everyone's in parity. Players are actually going for what this should be going for at this point of the draft. Most players are going for 7. If we spend the queue here, you can see the players are starting to go Diggs, Judy, Allen, Rome, Rasheed Rice, right? So these players are starting to go for $10, $11, $12 here, which makes a lot more sense and is a lot more bearable, for lack of a better phrase, than the previous draft. But yeah, you're starting to see some values being had here, and this is one of the reasons why I went early, and then I just got some players knowing that I may be able to get a wide receiver or 2 at the back end of the draft here. Yeah, so at this point, I'm just trying to, let the teams with money spend some of that money, because if it's a bidding war, I'm not going to win that one. And so I'm just letting them get the players they need, and then I can hopefully get in there and get some value. And I've got my board here in terms of, now I want Pittman. For now, I'm just going to, most players have been going for 7, and so I'm hoping that I can get him for 3, 4, in that range. Those are the type of players I want. No one, I know that like the bots are going to bid against me for Pittman, but I know that given the talent on the board, no one else is going to compete, essentially. And so I can get value. When I look at my rankings here, I see that Pittman is ranked higher than Calvin Ridley, Rasheed Rice, Jameson Williams, Ricky Pearsall, Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel. So there's a lot of those type of players that are available to take advantage of. And I'm just trying to, at this point, add as much depth as possible. And so, bidding against my buddy here for Jordan Addison. I think I can spend that money elsewhere. He can have Addison or compete with someone else for Addison. Addison's great when he's back. But I think I'm just going off my rankings here. I've got him way lower. I've got him lower than Josh Downs, than, Darnell Mooney, those types of players. Matthew Golden is also lower, close to lower than Christian Kirk. All right, and so I think he's just like the hottest name right now, and people are just, every draft this guy's going for way more than and it's really confusing because I'm like, wait, what's going on here? They have all of those wide receivers, right? I know he's talented, but it's not just going to go. He's not just automatically going to be number 1, right? There's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense, and you want to be mindful of that. And so I'm being a little bit more cautious on Matthew Golden, but for $5, you can't go wrong, right? That's the range we are playing in right now. The people with money can outbid us at any time. But I think the goal here is just to keep stacking value. And when you leave this draft, you want to make sure you have most of your bench spots as filled as possible. Currently, I don't have a QB. I am Yeah, I don't have a QB or a tight end at this point, but given the prices here, I should be able to acquire those type of players for what I have here. And so what I'm going to do is just pricing force. So I just had Debo Samuel go off the board. He was lower, higher than She Rice. Yeah, higher than Juwan Jennings. Hey, so it's not. It is what it is at this point. There's still some value to be had here, but I know these other teams are also lined up to get players. I need a QB bad. I need a, but this is a 12-team league. There will be plenty of QBs, so the focus at this point is not on QBs per se. It should be on stacking as many of these players as possible. Yeah, guy with money, and the Charbonnet is like the hottest ticket right now. And I know he was just sitting and waiting for Charbonnet. So at that point, you can't compete. Let him have Charbonnet. I have four wide receivers that are running backs that are serviceable. Yeah, but look here. What we have is Olave. We have Olave. We have T. Higgins. I mean, QBs are going for $2 here. So I think we are good. T. Higgins, JSN, James Cook, DeAndre Swift, Mike Evans. Eh. So the bots are becoming annoying, to say the least. Evan Ingram is still here. I can pick him up. But essentially, we've got Swift, Mike Evans, Alvin Kamara, David Montgomery, Micah Pittman, Debo Samuel. All right. I think with a core like that, I am good for the most part. All I need is just pick up some flyers here and there, and I'm good. Pick up a QB, and I'm good. All right. So this draft is a lot more stressful than the last one. Just different environments call for different strategies. It's just you play against different players. The budget's different. There are also 12 teams, so the urge to get that running back is less than in a prior draft, where everyone felt like they wanted the best of the running backs, but then that was hard to come by. That happens. That happens. Really for $4. You know what? I want a bit, but yeah, someone just did mean it. But I still have other positions of need that I need to fill, and so I still have to be a little bit more judicious in how I approach it. I mean, he can outbid me, but still, it just hurts, right? But that's what happens when you manage your budget properly. Look at what he's got: Nakua, DK Metcalf, Jameson Williams. The running back position is suspect, but he's got just so many wide receivers. He can just toss them in his queue whenever he's ready, right? And so that's the beauty of it. It's a 12-team league, 19 roster spots. There will be plenty of value on the waiver wire. There's no need to fight, scratch, and claw at this point to get the players you want. You will get them. We are all going to be bidding $1 per player pretty soon. Anyways, as soon as this guy is done, we're a go. The problem there is that we have to fight against the bots, and that's the challenge, right? The bots still have money to spend, And so at some point they're going to start outbidding us for these players. So you want to make sure you've got the spots you want filled for the most part, and then it's easier to compete against the bots. And that's what I'm going to do here. Going back to my roster, it's not bad, guys. It's not bad. I could have done a lot worse than this. I feel like if I have waited, I'll be getting value right now. But look at all of these running backs that would have gone off the board, and I would not have any running back depth. My wide receivers are solid. My running backs are solid. Get the players I need, and I'm good. Evan Ingram is who I want, but is he doing this because, okay, so he wants Evan Ingram too. That's okay. You can have Ingram, sir. Now, in terms of who I can pick up here, let me change this not to average budget, but like to max budget, but to what the team has. I still have, in terms of tight ends, I still have on the board, Ramondre is going down. I still have Jake Ferguson. I still have Colston Laughlin is down the list. Dalton Kincaid is here. Strange is here. Jonnu Smith is here. So I feel like I can get away with one of those guys. That would be good. Njoku's gone. Mark Andrews gone. Can also pick up Zaya, likely put him on IR and see what happens. But again, this is a 12-team league, and at this point of the draft, we are not really fighting, right, for talent. And we're not really fighting for talent. It's pick a player at this point. How many tight ends can one person possibly have? And so because of that, looking at my rankings here, all the guys, Jake Ferguson, this is how I'm ranking them. Hunter Henry. Tucker Kraft is off the board. He'll be next. And Strange and Jonnu. Right? Brenton Strange. And then Jonnu Smith. Okay? So those are how I'm ranking those guys. I feel like in that order, I can get someone there. So tight ends, QBs are starting to go for $1. So looking at my QB depth here, Daniel Jones is strangely ranked below Bo Nix. I mean, above. Daniel Jones is ranked above Jared Goff and Caleb Williams. So I feel like I'll go Caleb here and then just see where the dust settles. Yeah, the bots are starting to do work now. But whoever team that is not going to be happy about running backs in particular. Let's look at what their running back situation looks like. Yeah, Joe Mixon and nobody else. So you just let the big dogs get the QBs, man. Don't fight him. He's almost out of here. So, okay. This is a teaching moment. When a guy guy's got more money than you, so the bots are just outbidding us. When a guy's got more money than you, let him get the player he wants. Let him get the player he wants. At this point, there's so many players on the board that you don't need to fight him. He's going to outbid you regardless of what you do. He's got more money than you. Just feed him some players you think he'll like, right? Right now, he's sitting on two QBs. He's not going to draft a QB again. He may want a running back here. Just feed him a running back and see what happens. And then you're good, right? And so you're starting to see players go for $1 here. Pick $1 player or the bot's going to outbid you is what I'm learning. Guys, at this point of the draft, we have a big problem. We have this bot right here. He's got a ton of spots to fill. Got Josh Allen for 20 and Brock Purdy. Okay. But this bot's got a ton of spots to fill. All right? You want to be done when this person shows up. for example. Or you want to be done pretty soon because every player until like the roster is full, every player that's nominated is gonna go for $2-3. And if you don't have enough, and I see people are trying to already feed these bot players. The problem there is that if the player is $1, the bots are not gonna bid on that player, right? If you already got them for $1, you have to pick a player that's 2 or something, right? And the bots will bid like that. And so until these bots are out of the equation, it is going to be really, really problematic for teams like mine that has $2 to spend in terms of max bid, but has QB to fill and a whole lot of positions to fill. All right, so you have to be mindful of that and make sure you go early and you have the core of your team established before. Because right now, say that that owner shows up, right? Mr. Jeffrey here shows up. What happens now is that he's just going to go just $3, $4, just get a lot of like whoever's left, you just basically pay for them, which there's nothing wrong with it. But the goal here is if you pay in a league to be a part of the league, show up. If you don't show up, these are some of the things that happen. So at the end of the draft, he's going to get players, but it's going to be players he's not happy with. The good thing is that the tight end position, the QB position, and the running back position is good enough that he can pick up some players off waivers or at the end of the draft here and still be good. Who I really wanted. But yeah, I think if I can leave with Caleb, it really does put me in a good spot. Right, there we go. We've got a QB. I am going to nominate Hunter Henry. And because I can only bid $1, I'm picking dollar players, but players I actually want to keep. And so worst case, I can drop Henry. But that's based on my rankings. He's next behind Hunter Henry. I'm looking at QB rankings. Hunter Henry is, Zach Ertz is here too. He's higher than both of those guys. He's ranked behind Ferguson and higher than Tucker Kraft, higher than Brenton Strange, higher than Dalton Kincaid. So I think I'm good there with tight ends. I'm good with tight ends. And so let's take a look at my roster here. We've got Caleb, we've got Olave, Higgins, we've got JSN, we've got James Cook, David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, Jake Ferguson, Mike Evans, Alvin Kamara, Pittman, Debo, Hunter Henry. Right? It's amazing thus far. And we'll just pick up some, like I want to get the backups for both Cook and Swift if I can. That's what I want to do, just to have some backup running back situation going here. But I also don't have a lot of money to spend, so my average bid is like $1. I can't outbid anyone, so anyone who has more money than me can outbid me on those players. Okay? That's what's happening. Javonte Williams is going for 5, so I may just kind of sit back here and see what happens. I can't do anything. Anyways, I'm at the mercy of the rest of the draft. But I like where I'm at, right? I don't have a big need at any particular position. And just fill out the rest of the roster. We are winding down here in this one. I've got no money left, so I'm just here to fill out roster positions. I did try to pick up Wandale. I had Wandale in my queue, but obviously he's gone. I did have Quinshawn Ali Gordon. I got sniped, and then Judkins. I got sniped. But I still have Blake Corum. I still have Will Shipley. Have guys like that. Damian Pierce, Blake Corum. Just want to throw some value like that on my bench and see what happens throughout the season. In terms of the draft board, this is what we are looking at here. You know, there are some teams that just went mid-tier, and this guy has his QBs here. But yeah, so this is what the draft board looks like. This one was a lot more measured in terms of how teams were spending. I mean, at the end here, you see that players like Jared Judy, Addison, these are players in the prior draft would have gone for close to 30, right? So you start to see those players go off the board at like more reasonable price points, and that's why it paid to have been early early in terms of let me get enough value on my roster, and then like I can just pick $1 per player here. So I've got Ray Davis for $1. That's a good situation for me. If anything happens to James Cook, I've got the backup there. And I may pick up Kyle Monongai, Blake Corum, those type of guys. Damian Pierce. Will Shipley is someone I want. And so when he comes around here, I'm going to pick up Will Shipley just to have security for Saquon Barkley. He's $1, so the bots should not outbid me for his services. But you never know. We still have another team here with money left. They can technically outbid me for his services, but I have to go because you can't wait, right? Because if you don't get outbid and you just, like, for example, right, if you're terrified at this point of the draft, there's no need. Just go ahead and select the players you want. Either you get them or you don't get them. That's how it goes. And so yeah, I've got Will Shipley and Ray Davis. Just at this point, I'm just throwing bodies on my bench. I remember last year I had drafted Gorendo or Jordan Mason, and CMC got hurt, and so I had like a number 1 running back in this league. Right, and there will be tons of value on the waiver wire in this league. It's a 12-team league. There's a whole like 2 additional teams compared to the last league, 2 additional teams less that need players, right? And the roster sizes are the same. So there will be a ton of value. It just depends on how you want to stack your benches, because I'm not worried. My benches is just lottery picks at this point. Throw some guys on there, see what happens, get some of my backups, go on from there. But yeah, this is where we are. This draft was a lot more measured compared to the prior one. Less inflationary, should I say. Players went where this should have gone. They went for the prices they should go for. So all in all, good draft, I would say. Good draft. I'm leaving this one feeling really good about my team, and I can't complain too much. That said, I need to pick up a few more players here, so I need to focus on that. I have a few positions left to fill. I'm just going to take a flyer on Kyle Monongai for now. I am not going to draft a kicker in a defense. No one can outbid me at this point. So we are good. I have DeAndre Swift, and I mean, I don't know if it lasts season, and so I'm just being a little bit more cautious in terms of, getting a piece of that offense if I can. And I may pick up Giddings just for right now. I usually don't draft kicker and defenses this early. I mean, I know we are away from the season, but I can stream kickers and defenses. When we look at the defense section here, there are a ton of defenses still available. Minnesota, Pittsburgh, the Chargers. And one of the defenses that people are not talking about is Green Bay's, right? And this Chicago's. So I can stream defenses. I just want to fill this roster, and then I can figure out what's going on between now and the season. If I have to drop a lottery ticket, I will make the call on which one of them to drop. But for now, this is what it is. So let me see here. Watson. If I can pick up Christian Watson and put him in my IR, that also creates space for. And so, do I pick up Giddings or do I pick up? I feel like Christian Watson can also be had for for free off waivers. I don't think a lot of people are going that deep to find him. But what else would I? Who else would I be drafting here? Right? I have Giddens. I don't have. Let's see what we have in terms of quarterback. I don't typically do 2 QBs in this league. I want to pick up Anthony Richardson, but I also know that he's probably going to be available on waivers, so I can wait to add him to the fold. Daniel Jones is right there. Aaron Rodgers, Cam Ward. I can stream a QB. It's not that serious. So yeah, in these 12-team leagues, I tend to not carry multiple QBs. Hey, as I say this, I'm getting, but this is okay, right? And teams, there's a lot of teams, people, managers who went to bed already. They'll wake up and be like, okay, I don't want 5 QBs, so I'm going to drop them. I'd rather just take the upside players who I can decide later if I want to drop or not, and then make the call from there. So it is either Giddings, but I do have plenty of running back depth, and so I'll just pick him up, put him in my queue, and go from there. I may do this with Tank Dell as well. But yeah, that is it, guys. This is what the standings look like. Obviously, I didn't draft a kicker and a defense. And when you look at my roster, we started with these players up front. And then my buddy there always drafts 2 defenses. There's too much value on the waiver wire to draft 2 defenses. I'll figure that out later. Like I said, the Packers defense is rated the second best defenses based on my rankings, and they're still available. Chargers are still available. The Vikings just went. Texans are available. Seattle and the Chiefs are still available. So those are good defenses I can pick up on waivers. But in terms of running back, I ended up with James Cook, DeAndre Swift, right? And then Kamara and Dave Montgomery. And then on the back end of that, I got Ray Davis, the backup, James Cook. I got Will Shipley. I've got Blake Corum. I've got Damian Pierce. I don't know what's happening in Houston, but that could be a valuable add. I've got Kyle Monangai just as a backup to DeAndre Swift, just in case some funny business starts to happen. I know Ben Johnson and Swift were together before, so there's a possibility that this guy just doesn't fit his offense. And then Christian Watson, I'm going to throw in the IR. All right. That is it. This draft was a lot teamer relative to the one we did earlier. All right. It's a lot easier to navigate. I've also been sitting here for 4 hours now doing these 2 drafts. So in terms of what I learned from this one is each draft has its own atmosphere. Here, most managers follow the script, right? This is more akin to your home leagues, right? I know a lot of the teams here. I know a lot of the managers here. And then the league is filled with some managers we don't know. And so I know how they're going to draft. I know they're going to be more cautious. And I think that just sets the tone for the rest of the draft, right? Whereas that prior draft, it was just a lot of people we play with from the Yahoo, general broader Yahoo pool of players. And it was very unpredictable. And I think a few teams started to just set the pricing on running backs. And because there are 14 teams, it created like this supply and demand where if I have four solid running backs, four of the top 20 running backs, that takes a lot of off the table for other teams, and there is not going to be a lot of value available on the waiver wire for those teams, and so that all comes into play here. Okay. Again, just to wrap this up nicely, I talked about this earlier, but one of the things I learned from the first half of the first draft in the first half of this video was RB premium, right? Running back is more shallow than wide receivers are. And so if you find yourself in these type of drafts where you see running backs start to fly off the board, just try to get you at least two and see what happens, right? You can always go to wide receivers. You will always find a lot of good value in wide receivers, which is basically what I did here. I actually started with my wide receivers and then I drafted my QBs, but you get the point. In the prior draft, that's what I did, okay? I talked about Chris Godwin. Teams are still drafting Chris Godwin, and I mentioned that earlier. I don't get it. Stop wasting your money on Chris Godwin. He's going to come back this year, but he's not going to be the same player as he was before he got hurt. It'll take him time to get back to his normal self. Same with Christian Watson. I'm throwing him in my IR spot. If he comes back, depends on when he comes back, he might be gone based on the injuries I've probably sustained at that point. Some of these drafts can be inflationary. That means basically what we saw earlier. You have a lot of teams with a lot of money left, not a lot of players to spend it on. And so every player becomes, you have a lot of teams with a lot of money and not a lot of players to spend that cash on. And so every player that comes up, especially in the case we had where there were almost no running backs available, that becomes a premium position. And so teams are starting to pay close to $30 for backups that go for $1 in normal drafts. Like Blake Corum, Will Shipley, all of these guys are going close to 20 in that draft, right? Because nobody wants to be left holding the bag. And because when you have to trade with your league mates, then they'll take you to the woodshed because you have no leverage. Okay? Like I said, I hope you learned a lot from these. I just did 2 in a row. One was a lot more hectic. One was a lot more calmer, easier to go through. But if you like this type of content, I will keep bringing it to you. Hopefully, as we go into like the last week of draft season here, this really does help inform some of the way you are drafting and just being more measured overall when you enter those drafts. What do you want your strategy to be? Do you want to be the player who goes in first guns ablaze and just gets all of like the players they want and they're done with a budget and they have 4 players? That's not a bad strategy. Like I was saying before, that gives you the opportunity to get Jamar Chase and Bijan Robinson Gibbs at the same time. You can get those 3 players if you want. There is no snake draft format I know of that will allow you to get those 3 players, all right, on your team. You have to get one of them and then get other players to fill your roster. All right, that is the beauty of salary cap. Like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know in the comment section what I could have done better, what I did wrong, how you would approach your drafts going forward based on some of this information. And I will be bringing more of this type of videos to you. Just let me know if this stuff is working for you. The entire industry is focused still on standard draft formats, right? I get it. That's where the majority of drafters are, but I usually don't do that anymore. I usually don't participate in snake drafts, right? And so my fantasy focus in life has kind of gravitated towards salary cap, and I just find it more flexible. It gives me all the flexibility I want to have, all the different permutations of players. And that's the goal here, to keep bringing this content to you so it can help inform what you do when you enter your drafts, whether you are new to this or you are a seasoned pro in terms of salary cap. I think the little tips and tricks that I'm offering here hopefully helps you make a difference in your drafts. I'm tired. It's almost 4 hours and 10 minutes into this. It's time to go. But I will see you on the next one. Peace out.